Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki Frazier and Rachel Dean, certified clinical aromatherapists. We are excited to have you here on today's episode where you know that you'll get the best essential oil scoop.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. If you want to learn more about how to become a clinical aromatherapist, check out the courses at www.schoolofessentria.com. Welcome to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki Frazier here with Noelle Fowler, and we're going to be talking about all things decluttering. Noelle Fowler is a holistic declutter coach who helps busy moms simplify their lives to make room for what matters most. She takes a root cause approach to decluttering because baskets and bins are just band-aids in organizing. Her realistic and sustainable approach to decluttering folds into the rhythm of everyday life, so you're not spending all of your Saturdays tackling that closet. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Nikki.
Yeah. And so one thing before we dive in, we like to ask all of our guests is, what is your favorite essential oil or scent? I know we were talking and you don't use a lot of essential oils, so either one.
We do diffuse some lavender, so I feel like that's probably a common one, but I really do like the smell of lavender. I think it's calming, and is great for like the bedroom or maybe the living room.
Nice. Yeah. And as we get talking, it's actually one that is really good to help release energy. So we're talking about decluttering, and as we're releasing things and trying to get rid of what isn't needed anymore, lavender is actually a really good one for that too. So great that you are using it, because it goes really in hand with today's topic. So I'd love to know, can you share what brought you into becoming a declutter coach?
I didn't start as a declutter coach. I actually started as a professional organizer. So during the pandemic, I was stuck at home like so many people, right? And got really into organizing. And so I read books and watched all the shows and then basically did my whole house, like got a bunch of bins and a label, fancy label maker, all that. And so I loved doing that. And then I started doing that for family and friends and then realized that I could get paid to do it. So I was like, yes, this is for me, right? I started my own LLC. But eventually I realized that I wasn't really helping people with their clutter when I was organizing it for them. It felt like the bins and the baskets were just hiding their clutter. And we would declutter as part of the process as a professional organizer, but it wasn't getting to the root of the clutter in the first place. And no matter
Right.
how good the system I created was, no matter how good the bins and the labels were, the clutter would inevitably come back.
Mm.
And so I started learning about minimalism, which that word kind of freaks people out sometimes, but I really like Joshua Becker's definition of minimalism. It's the intentional promotion of things that matter most and the removal of anything that gets in the way of that. And so I really leaned into intentional living and then decided I did not want to be organizing for people anymore. I wanted to help people get rid of their stuff. And so that's when I made the transition to being a declutter coach, which is what I do now. And I do work specifically with women. A lot of them are moms, but not all of them. And I teach them to declutter on their own. So they don't need to pay someone else to do it, but rather learn those really important skills of letting go so they can use them for the rest of their lives.
So many little tidbits there that I was like, yep, yep, yep. And it's getting to the root cause. Because if, like you said, you can go in and organize someone's house, but if they don't change their habits, it's just going to come
Mhm.
back and you're going to be full again. And I'm raising my hand right now for podcast listeners, because that is me. I like to say a recovering pack rat hoarder, where I just don't like to let things go. Everything
Mhm.
to me has a memory, especially when it comes to my children. I'm like, I have
Yeah.
boxes and boxes, and I was able to at least turn their clothes into memory blankets. But I'm like, every about once a year, maybe I'm trying twice a year to be like, okay, no, I just need to let things go and kind of slowly work away at it. So I get that. I think that's great.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, we are not taught how to let go. We live in a culture that says more and more and more, right? Like the more you have, the happier you'll be, which is not the case. And we know that inherently we know that, but it's not what we're taught. So that letting go is a muscle we have to build for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is in today's it's so easy to just go out and buy something though too. And like I'm just thinking of all my kids' toys that are half broken, not played with, and we'll just go out and buy new ones without even tossing broken ones though. I'm
Right?
like,
Yeah.
why are we still holding on to things that are broken, not working, or even just don't serve the purpose for us anymore and still fully functional? And we go out and buy things to replace it, but we're still holding on to all the other things. Absolutely. So what would cause us to kind of hold on to all this stuff? And I'm sure it's a very complex thing. But if you can kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I always say it's not about the stuff, it's about the stuff under the stuff. It's about the emotions and it's about the decisions and it's about the memories that are attached to that stuff. And a lot of what prevents us from letting go are the stories that we tell ourselves about our stuff. So I call myself a holistic declutter coach because I'm not here to just help you get rid of your stuff. I'm here to help you understand the why so we can really get to the root of it. So it doesn't come back, right? So we're not just decluttering and then have to keep doing it over and over. Although I will say, as long as we're consuming, we will be decluttering, but you get to a point where you're in maintenance mode. So I help women rewrite those stories we tell ourselves about our stuff. And one common example is a story that we tell ourselves is, I can't get rid of this. I spent too much money on it. Right? Have you ever
Mhm.
told yourself that? I know I have. And so the story rewrite for that is the money was spent when you first bought the item, not the moment you decide to let it go. In fact, letting it go will free you up.
Yes. Very,
Yeah.
very true. That is true. The money's already gone.
Yeah.
So you're not missing it again. It's gone. It was gone those weeks, months, years ago when you did buy it. That is true.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And another story that we tell ourselves is, what if I need this one day? You know?
That's my guilty.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's me is, but I might need this in like a year or two or five or 10. Like I'm honestly like in 10 years, my kids might need this. So I'm gonna hold on to it.
Right. And that's so common. You are not alone in that for sure. So the story rewrite for that is, I haven't needed this yet. And if I do need it, I could replace it reasonably, for a reasonable price or even borrow it from someone else. Because the reality
Mhm.
reality is, if you haven't used it yet, the chances of you actually using it are pretty slim. And that's usually
Yeah.
really small and even inexpensive stuff that we're like, what if I need this one day? And so my encouragement is to get rid of it. If you find yourself asking those what if questions, or another approach is follow the what if. Like, okay, I got rid of this poster board that my kid might need for a project a year from now. Okay, random, but what if I needed a year from now? Well, I would go to the store and I would buy a new one and it would be okay.
Mhm.
Right? So follow that trail of what if thoughts so you can see realistically what would happen.
Yeah. No, that's great. It is. I find I'm just thinking my own personal experience. It's a lot of kid stuff or kitchens. I love kitchen gadgets too. Where my husband rolls his eyes every time he'll like discover something, and I'm always, no, we've had that. It's totally new. And I'm like, no, we've had that, and then it'll sit there for months, and then
Mhm.
eventually I do. I'm like, okay, why? And then I get rid of it. But it is. It's that what if. But I like
Yeah.
following it. Is a great. I like that technique. Absolutely.
And then another one, this one, especially as women, we can fall for this, is like, I'll use it one day. It's usually like hobby stuff. Like, I'll have more time for this one day. Oh, am I nailing it on the
I'm
head?
anyone who's watching, I'm laughing because I'm like, you're just describing me to a T. Honestly, you are. I
Well,
love
I'm so
it.
glad we're having this conversation. And again, like, you are not alone. These are common. These are things that the women who I work with say.
Mhm.
And I have had these thoughts too, for sure. So the story rewrite for that is, our stuff serves us in seasons of our life. And so if you haven't made time for it right now, or you don't have time for it right now, then perhaps it's time to let go. And if you
Mhm.
really wanted to pursue that thing again in the future, you would make it happen as a priority. So let's say it's like, um, you're running stuff from before you have kids. And you have kids, now your hands are full, you're never going to be training for a marathon again. And so it can be really hard to let go of those shoes or of those running outfits, but you have to be really realistic and know that that stuff served you for a season. That season is over right now, and that's okay. It can be time to
Mhm.
let go.
I love that. And it's funny you're talking about, I just actually stumbled across a bin in my basement of clothes that I haven't worn in probably 2 years. And I'm like, well, if I clearly haven't even realized this bin was here, I think I can donate.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great thought.
So no, those are really great. I like the those thought patterns of what's going on. And so would you say like those are kind of the root causes, or would you say there's even like a deeper level before that of something
Yeah.
else festering?
Oh, that's great. There is a deeper level, for sure. You said we're going to get into it, so I mean, it's usually an emotion that's below it.
Okay.
It can be a false identity, a dream identity. A lot of the times, too, like clutter is often described as delayed decisions, right? Like stuff builds up and we are overwhelmed. We don't know what to do with this stuff. And so we just put it off. So that can be a root cause, delayed decisions, um, attachment to false identities or past identities. And then, I mean, it goes back to childhood wounds, like wanting to have a lot of stuff, to have security. Like maybe you grew up not having a lot of stuff. And so now you have money and now you have control and can buy what you want. And so you buy what you want, right? So yeah, it definitely goes deeper, and it all goes down to an emotional root cause. And we have to
I
tackle those emotions so that we can tackle the clutter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, anyone who's watching can see my facial expressions. I'm an open book. My facial expressions just show everything. And decision is always, I find that's a big one for a lot of different things, is that decision fatigue, too hard to make a decision. So when you said that, that was a huge click. Because it something that comes up, I find with a lot of different people, professionals that I do talk to, that making decisions is hard. I know it's something I've struggled with in the past. And even just that perfectionism comes into
Mm-hmm.
play with making decisions also. And I know Rachel and we've put the motto of done is better than perfect, so
Mm-hmm.
that we don't get stuck on making decisions. We don't let that hold us up of, is this the right decision? Is this the perfect decision? Because no matter what decision people take, there's going to be a consequence. And I use the word consequence as not a good or bad way. Like there's positive consequences too, that it's just there's going to be an outcome, a change,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to then live with that decision, which it can be hard to make some of those decisions. Absolutely. So that when you mentioned that, that's what came up in my mind.
Yeah,
Is
for
that
sure. And so that's why I tell people, like, some people want to start in the basement or in the attic or the garage. Oh my goodness, that's the worst place to start decluttering because there are so many decisions there. You got to start somewhere easy. And so I tell people to
okay?
start in the bathroom because
Okay.
there's no sentimental clutter in the bathroom and
Mhm.
there's usually things you can get out of there pretty quickly. There's some
Yeah.
trash or expired lotion or like hotel samples from vacation 2 years ago that you're never going to use. And so you build that decluttering muscle by getting rid of that stuff. Those are easy
Mm.
decisions so that eventually, when you work your way through your home and you do get to the basement or the garage or the attic or the sentimental boxes, right? Your children's memory boxes, it's way easier to let go because you've built up that muscle and you have already made a ton of decisions and felt the benefits of decluttering.
Okay. So then so looking at the house, so you said bathroom kind of would be the first and easiest place to start with. Would you have a recommendation of kind of what pattern to go through then? What room how would you have that sequence? That's the words I'm looking
Mhm.
for.
Yeah, so start in the bathroom, and then I would say the bedroom, like the primary bedroom for the adults. And a lot of people are like, I can't get my husband on board. Do your side, do your stuff, because the rest of the family will see the benefits and will
Mhm.
want in and will want to keep going. So I would do your bedroom, and then family room or kitchen could be either one. I'd say the kitchen probably has more stuff in it in most homes. So
Mhm.
maybe family room first and then the kitchen. And then just work through room by room until you get to those big spaces, the garage, the basement.
I was gonna say, so what would you recommend to keep for last? Like, is it bigger spaces or where it holds more emotional attachment?
Great question. It probably depends on the person, but I would say the emotional attachment
Okay.
would be last. But I just say the garage, which is one of the bigger spaces, because that tends to have so much stuff. Like people move and they still have moving boxes filled with stuff in their garage.
That's
I know this, yeah. I know this from being a professional organizer. So that one just takes so many decisions that I would say that towards the end too.
yeah.
But if you
Actually,
built up your decluttering muscle and you feel like you could tackle those sentimental boxes first, that's great. And
mm,
then get to the garage. It definitely, there's nuance to it, especially with different people and personalities.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I know we moved, it'll be 5 years this summer that we've moved into our house. And we do have a couple of boxes, and they're more of like ones that we knew would never really get unpacked, but stuff from like our own childhood that our parents gave to us of like plaques and medals and different things like that. But even just picturing like we have our garage right now is full of just the kids' stuff. One side is literally just junk that gets thrown on top of each other, including all the kids' toys, whereas the other half is actually semi more organized of like bikes and sports equipments and that type of stuff. So it's like those big, but there's no emotion I find in our
Mhm.
garage
Okay, yeah.
versus I'm thinking our basement would stuff, and would it be easier to almost like quarter it off or eighth it off, like divide it into sections? Because I'm like, I can picture like part of my basement, there's no emotional attachment. Even like, and I have shelves that are like kitchen appliances, no emotional attachment. But then I get to like shelving units of I still have diapers and my youngest is 9. We cloth diapered. So I still have like my go-to cloth diapers. I have
Yeah.
go-to like baby things still that I just don't want to let go of because I look at it and I'm like, oh, my ovaries. I want another baby, even though I'm never going to have another baby ever. I know this. But I'm like, these are the baby things that I want to hold on to and I'm not ready to let go of yet. So could you almost like divide it so that I'm like, okay, this is the easy parts. I can easily
Yeah.
go through that and hold on the rest of the section for later on, if that makes sense.
For sure. And that's part of what I do as a coach is encourage you because you know yourself and you know your, learning style and work ethic and you know your stuff better than anyone else. So I empower women to make those decisions on their own. And also like we are not tackling this all in a day. I would say like a box at a time in the basement. Like I don't want you decluttering all day on a Saturday. I want you spending time with your kids on a Saturday,
Mhm.
maybe one box on that Saturday and then another box the next week or another box midweek if you have time. Because I think something that happens a lot too is people try to marathon declutter and then they get burnt out and then they're overwhelmed and then they have piles everywhere and they never put the piles away and
Mhm.
then it's even more of a mess than they started. So I like to tell people to work in like 15, 20-minute chunks to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I was gonna say, 'cause I remember seeing sometimes programs out there through the years where it was like declutter your whole house in 7 days. And I'm like, that's a lot to go through in 7 days, or
Hmm.
5 days or things like that. So I like that approach of one box at a time. And I'm assuming too, like you said, some rooms are easier to do. So like the bathrooms that you could probably easily do in a couple of hours on a Saturday or after work one evening, things like that, versus other emotional packed day or areas of the house.
For sure.
Okay. I like that. And so a normal 3 bedroom house type thing with a basement, a garage, things like that. So would you say almost like take a year to go through it?
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
because you don't want to delay it too long either of like, no, you're just then adding another procrastination of you're actually not decluttering, you're still just holding on. So what's the fine line between not spending all your time, but spending too much time waiting?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question. Again, it definitely depends on the individual, but I would say a year to go through your house is a good pace.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because you don't want to do it all. Like you don't want to do it all in a day.
Mhm.
And it's more realistic. Like no one, let me not speak in absolutes. A lot of people don't have time to declutter every single day. And it
Mm.
gets easier as you go, like I'm saying. So eventually it's going to be so easy to declutter the bathroom 6 months from when you did it the first time because one, you're not going to let as much stuff in there because you know how much effort it took to get it out. And
Mhm.
then two, you're just doing a quick pass through. You're in maintenance mode. And so you get each space in your home in maintenance mode. And after a year, yeah, you are not even going to recognize your home. It is going to be so much lighter, so much more simple to take care of. I mean, the average home, if you were to declutter the average home, it would remove or lessen the house load of cleaning by 40%. 40%
Wow.
less work if you were to declutter. I mean, come on, who does not want that?
That sounds pretty good. I would definitely take 40% less cleaning for that. That absolutely, absolutely. Now, it's got me thinking of, is there too much though? Because I mean, I understand minimalistic lifestyle, but I'm just
Mhm.
thinking of some people who I know who they literally don't keep anything, from like grandparents who won't even keep like grandkids' pictures, to like they just don't keep
Hmm.
anything, like almost to the point of zero sentimentality things
Oh
in the
man, I'm
house.
wondering if I'm one of those people in your category. No, I mean it has to be what you want and what your preferences
Okay.
are. But
Yeah.
you don't keep things out of guilt or shame or because you feel like, your grandma gave it to you and you have to because
Mhm.
your grandma gave it to you. She wanted you like she gave it to you because she thought you would like it. She didn't give it to you so you would feel like you had to keep something. And I know you're talking about grandparents and pictures, but I think each person, we each have different clutter tolerances. And I
Yeah.
think we all have different attachments to sentimental items. So it depends on the person. I'm not here to say, you got rid of too much stuff.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
don't, I haven't seen that yet,
Okay, good to know. I always like to look at both ends of the spectrum.
for
So,
sure. Yeah.
there's always one of like, like holding on to too much, but is there a thing of not holding on to enough either? And, as we're talking about this too, it's you still have the memories. Like the memories
Absolutely.
aren't gone. You don't need a thing, an object to have that memory, to have that lived experience. You had that lived experience, and this is just something, yes, to remember it by, but you have your memories that for that also.
Hmm. I
So
always
yeah.
say that this happens a lot with t-shirts when we get to t-shirts for some people. Like they have all their t-shirts from their high school career, like all, whatever, t-shirts from whatever season of their life. And I say, where does the memory live?
Mhm.
Because it's not in the t-shirt, it's in your heart.
Mhm.
That's where the memory lives. Like you said, you already had that lived experience. So you don't need 26 t-shirts to help you remember this awesome season of your life.
Yeah.
And
No,
I think
very
that's
true.
bringing for people.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. Now, I know you were talking about maintenance mode. So can we talk a little bit about so once we've been able to kind of go through, what does maintenance mode really look like? Do you recommend like weekly schedule, monthly schedule? What does that kind of look like?
I think so much. So I'm in maintenance mode. My husband and I decluttered 50% of our belongings 3 years ago. And so we've been in maintenance mode ever since. And so much of it starts with your consumption habits. What are you bringing into your home? Because you are the gatekeeper of your home. You decide what comes in, what you're going to allow in, and what goes out. So I know that when we seriously decluttered, I had to change my consumption habits, specifically shopping, like shopping for clothes because like a lot of women, I like clothes, I like
Mm,
accessories and whatnot, but I wasn't buying it for the right reason. I was buying it so I would feel better about myself or
mm,
because I thought that it would make me be this kind of person. And so I really had to get that in check. And I like to say for people, this analogy just it gets me every time. If you are overwhelmed, Okay, you're overwhelmed with stuff. Imagine that your bathtub is overflowing. If your bathtub is overflowing, you don't start getting a bucket and bailing the water out. You turn the faucet off first, right? And so much of maintenance mode is turning that faucet off so that the stuff's not coming in the first place,
Yeah.
and being way more intentional with your purchases. And
Very
then,
true.
yeah. And in terms of actually decluttering, I mean, I love decluttering, right? But I probably declutter once a week at least. I'm getting rid of something every time I get something new. We follow the one in, one out rules. Every time something new comes in, something has to go. So if I get a new spatula because I'm like, ooh, I want a fish turner, then something else in that cooking utensil drawer has got to go.
Hmm.
And so that's part of what maintenance mode looks like too. And then like switching over for seasons, like our hall closet that has like shoes and winter coats and whatnot. When we switch that over, that's a good time to declutter.
Hmm.
As we're going through our summer stuff. What do we not use this winter, and what are we actually going to use this summer?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And actually, we just did that with our kids' clothes. We just switched the seasons and, looking at, okay, what do we have? What have you outgrown finally? And I honestly, I'm ashamed to admit it, I found socks that, again, as I said, my youngest is 9, and I swear these socks fit a 2-year-old. I'm like, why are these still in your drawer? Like,
They
and
were
he's
for
like,
a
look,
baby doll.
right? I'm like, he's like, look, they fit. And like they barely went halfway up his foot. I'm like, oh my goodness, child. I'm like, why are these? I'm like, I'm sure I've taken these out of your drawer before. How did they end up back in here? Where I find that is sometimes an issue where I've tried to declutter, and now this is mostly for kids' things, toys, their clothes, things like that, where it's like, that sure has not fit you in over a year. And they just refuse to stop wearing it because they're like, no, it totally fits. And I'm like, your
Mm,
gut is half hanging out. Like you're wearing flood pants. Like I know you like this, but you have grown 3 inches and it doesn't fit.
yeah.
Um, so is there any tips and tricks to help kids almost let things go? Because even like toys that are broken and they don't play with, I've had garbage bags of toys to donate. And if I don't get rid of it fast enough, then they literally take it when I'm not looking and they just bring it back to the toy room and then it gets all mixed back in. And I'm like, I don't have another 3 hours to go through it again. So I'm like, and then it's stuck there for another 6 months until I have the energy to go through all their stuff again and then redo it. And that's what I had to do last time was I had a giant box and we have buy nothing groups in our area, which I
Mhm.
absolutely love. It's one of those love and hate relationships because I see
Yeah.
all these other things and I'm like, oh, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. And sometimes I'm happy when I get them, and sometimes I'm like, why? I don't actually need this, but it looked cute or cool. But so I remember I posted this box of toys and I'm like, it needs to be picked up within the next 2 hours. Who can come and get it? Because I knew if it wasn't, it would just end up again back into the rotation of their stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, for
anything for
sure.
kids to help kind of release some stuff.
I think it's I don't hear the attachment to clothes as often, so I'll have to think about that. But the toys definitely, I mean, I don't think kids are ever too young to start learning about generosity. So teaching them, where these toys are going to go, they're going to go to another little kid
Mm,
who's local who is going to play with them. And mommy found them in a buy nothing group, or they're going to go to a donation center, and another kid who maybe
mm,
doesn't have as many toys is going to get to play with them. And so I think when you approach it that way, it can seem exciting for the kids. And they
mm.
can even choose, oh, which toys do you think would be a ones that, another little boy would like to play with that you had a lot of fun with, but maybe you don't play with as much.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the other one is to have physical boundaries. So a lot of people already have bins in their toy room, right? But their bins are like
Mm,
overflowing. Let's use those bins as a physical boundary for how many toys the kids can keep. So
mm.
let's say there's a bin of action figures. They can only keep however many action figures actually fit in the
Yeah.
bin, and the bin can go in the shelf that it's supposed to. And
Yeah.
so if they get a new one for Christmas, they have to choose some other ones to come out of the bin, and let that physical boundary um, be the determining factor. And I think that's really helpful for kids because
Mhm.
kids do not thrive with overstimulation. I mean,
No.
if they have too many toys, they're gonna say they're bored, right? And not even want to play. So
Yeah.
just like adults, kids thrive in those simplified spaces. So I think less toys, the better.
No, it is true. And having worked in school systems and with children, it's, that routine, but we're all overstimulated,
Yeah.
honestly. Not just kids, adults too. We are overstimulated all the time. And it is
Mhm.
hard for kids. And the biggest thing I hear, not just from my own children, but even I remember when I was working in the school system with children, it was always, I'm bored. There's nothing to do. You
Mhm.
have rooms upon, not just one room, rooms full of different things to do. And we don't let our kids be bored though. And so it's always
Mhm.
looking for, okay, what's going to keep them entertained? What's going to keep them entertained? And I know myself, I've been guilty of that. And especially when I would stay home with them. And now that I'm not in the school system, I'm working from home. I'm now even looking more, okay, how can my kids stay entertained while I work? Because now I actually have to work. I'm not just off for the summer when they're off. So I would look for different things. And I started last summer being like, no, like draw, like make me a comic book, go outside on top of the go outside and play. But I was like, start drawing, start using what you have, be creative. We have Lego at the wazoo. We are a huge Lego family. So I'm like, build me something. You have imagination that is incredible, both my children. So I'm like, make me something and tap into those things and stop looking for just more stuff because we don't need the more stuff. Because they were like, well, it's summer, buy me this and it'll keep me busy all summer. I'm like, no, we've tried that. Good try. That's a good try, kid. I know you want this new toy, but that's
Yeah.
not going to work this time.
I mean, you think about like babies, people buy a baby toys all the time, right? And the baby just wants to play with like the empty paper towel roll or the wooden
Yes.
spatula. And I think older kids are like that too. So, yeah, less is more when it comes to toys for sure.
Awesome. I love that. And now, kind of coming back into maintenance, I know we kind of went out, would you, in maintenance mode, would you almost recommend, I know you were saying I love the one for one aspect of it. I tried to follow that when I joined my Buy Nothing group. I was actually following that. If I won something, I would then post something, and I kind of got out of that. I'm trying to get back into it though. I still post stuff all the time. It's one of my favorite places to get rid of things. If I'm not driving, unless I have like a large amount, then I go to our local donation centers. But is there almost like a checklist or a way of, okay, this one week or 1 month should be focused on this room, or I've seen before lists of like, do your kitchen on Mondays, do the bathrooms on Tuesdays, do this on Wednesday. Like, is that something that's recommended, or what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on those types of things?
I again, I just don't think it's realistic to declutter on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. So the approach that I have inside the membership that I run is that we focus on one room for an entire month. And we're not decluttering every day. We have 3 live calls that are like 30, 45 minutes where we are actually decluttering live on the call. So it's accountability. Like,
Mm.
hey, you signed up for this. You're on the coaching call with me. Let's get to it. Ask me anything. And you're doing it with other women who
Mhm.
have the same goal as you, a simplified home. And then we have one challenge week throughout the month where they'll have 3 different prompts, simple decluttering prompts that will take 15, 20 minutes to do. And a lot of the times people will do those decluttering prompts and then they'll be so excited they'll keep going, right? Like if the prompt is to clean out your medicine cabinet, they're like, oh, that looks so good. I want to go ahead and do my linen closet now.
Yeah.
So I don't know about the, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but I do think one room a month, especially the way that I teach it, is a realistic way because again, you don't want to get burnt out doing this. We have full
Mhm.
plates, jobs, families, all of that. And so if we're going to be realistic about decluttering, then it's not going to be an everyday thing. It has to fold into the rhythm of our everyday life.
No, I like that. And I think that is a lot more sustainable without being overwhelmed. We are an overwhelmed society. It's go, go, go. And having, at the end of the day, I don't want to spend another 2 hours cleaning something. I want to sit and I want to veg for a little bit. It's, I need that downtime to recover before going to sleep also, of just focusing
Mhm.
on me and what's going to make the end of my day happy. And so I think that one room a month is a lot more sustainable long term. Absolutely. Um, so I think this is kind of a great way to kind of start wrapping this up. If there is a few takeaways that you can share with our listeners, what would it be?
So many. I One thing that is just so interesting to me is there's something called the silent to-do list. And it's the idea that every single item we own is adding to our to-do list, whether we think about it or not. The plant on the counter says, water me, water me. The extra blender that we have in the pantry that we have to move every time we go get the crock pot says, move me, or give me away, give me away. And so every single item we own adds to this silent to do list. And that's part of the overstimulation. This is why when we go away on vacation and we only have a suitcase of things, we feel so relaxed, right? We're in this hotel or this Airbnb and we're relaxed because there's no silent to-do list on vacation. There's
Yeah.
not a million items to take care of. And so think about that. Every item you own is adding to your to-do list. And so the less we can have, the quieter our silent to-do list is, and the more time we do have to veg and relax and to focus on the things that really matter to us.
I love that. I love that. And actually, as you were talking, um, I also just realized I wanted to tie it actually back into aromatherapy quickly of using essential oils to help energize you while you're decluttering is also a great thing to do. But there's also a lot of oils when we're looking at the energy aspect of it that are really good to help let go and to help release feelings of resentment or guilt
Mm.
of letting things
Wow.
go, or just self-forgiveness too, of, I can forgive myself and let go of this guilt of having let go of things that you might have an attachment to or you just haven't used. But again, right, it comes back to those emotional feelings. So looking for those oils that can help release those things are going to probably just add that extra layer of support. I know at the beginning we talked about lavender. When you mentioned lavender is one that you do diffuse, it is one to help just kind of release stagnant energy that's kind of trapped around. Some other good ones also are cypress, lemon, juniper. Looking at things that are like detoxing is just letting go. And so any oils that are going to be detoxing are going to help let energies and emotions that we're holding onto these things kind of let go as well. So that's juniper. Even things like sage or coriander are going to be other great ones. Frankincense are going to be great ones to help. You can diffuse for 30 minutes while cleaning or have a room spray and just kind of spray the room and then go in and tackle what you're tackling, things like that.
I love that. I love that added layer of, yeah, because like you
Yeah,
said, it's so much the emotions. So helping you work through those.
it is. And if we can work through those emotions, I think that would just make it a little bit easier to let it all go. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode. If people wanted to reach out to you, work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Make Room to Breathe. And if you were interested by those stories we tell ourselves and rewriting those stories, I do have a freebie called Let's Make Room, a simple guide to go from clutter to calm. And I have four of those different stories we tell ourselves and the story rewrites, and then just some of my other top tips for decluttering. So if they want to check that out, they can. And then I run the Making Room membership, which is that membership I've been talking about for women, where we declutter together. So much of decluttering is the emotional, tackling those emotional obstacles. And we do that together online on our calls. You have me to ask questions to, and other women who are cheering you on and have the same goal as you. We also are on a private app. And so we share our wins and our before and after pictures. And it's just very streamlined. So you're not like on a Facebook page scrolling, but rather on our private app and able to really focus on that goal of creating a simple home so you can focus on what matters most to you. So I would love to check
Awesome.
that out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that partnership, that accountability, the group
Mhm.
community those always help. It helps you feel like you're not alone. It helps you see you're not the only one in this situation, and cheer each other on. And when you see someone else being like, "Oh, look, check this out," like you said, like look at my new improved medicine cabinet that's all organized, and it's like, "Oh, I want mine to look like." It gives you the energy to inspiration to go and do that also. So I think that's amazing. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode. Very happy to have you on, and hopefully everyone can maybe go out and like you said, start with a bathroom, maybe get rid of a few things in there that aren't serving you anymore, and slowly work your way through into decluttering everything. So hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending your time with us here at Vetiver Vibes. This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. Don't forget to check out some of our free resources at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think would enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, you can go on over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review, and we will send you a free guided meditation as our way to say thank you.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply directly to you.